Welcome back to another episode of Servus, Kraut, Germany for non-Germans. It's been a while, I think like 2-3 weeks or so. Quick mental health break. Sometimes you need that, right? But now back with full force here, bringing you Germany for non-Germans. And before we start talking about all this serious stuff again with COVID and the news and so on, in one of the next episodes, I thought I really want to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart. And I just have to do it right now. And the topic close to my heart is that Germans in movies are always the supervillains. And well, at least we're super. And I figured since this is the case all the time, I have to do like kind of like a top 10 list. It's actually top 8. So you see, I actually really did some research and some soul searching. So the top 8 German supervillains in movies, and I'll also quickly explain why I rank it that way, of course. So let's start first. And the first one on the list is one that I have to add there, but I also have to add a disclaimer that I actually wanted to only focus on fictional characters. Meaning, I'm not going to put Hitler on the list because, of course, Hitler would just take all the cake, right, all the time. So I want to focus on fictional characters. However, I felt like I have to open the list with, well, a movie about a list, Schindler's List, that is. And I will have a follow-up episode soon that talks about Schindler's List and its importance for Germany and so on. But I just had to mention Ralph Fiennes playing Amon Goeth in Schindler's List, the main antagonist to Oskar Schindler in the movie. So I'm not going to talk more about it because I'm going to have a serious podcast about Schindler's List and all that it encompasses and so on. But I had to put Amon Goeth out there so that you don't say, you forgot Goeth. No, I didn't forget Goeth. He's certainly the worst of them all, next to Hitler. But I mean, in terms of movie villainy, is that a thing? But again, I want to focus on fictional characters, so that's why I'm not talking too much about him, because he was an actual real character, unfortunately, a real person that existed. But again, we'll have a Schindler's List podcast coming rather soon. Okay, but now let's focus on the top 7 of my fictional German movie characters. And the first one might be one that you might be even a little bit surprised to learn that he's German. It's Magneto. Magneto from the X-Men franchise. Yeah, Magneto, actual name. Do you know Magneto's actual name? Don't Google. Eric Lehnsherr. Not the I understand that it's supposed to sound German from Marvel here. Good try. It's not a very German name. It's like, you can see they try to make it sound, but it's German. But Eric is sounds more like Swedish, I would say. A German name would be Erich. It would E-R-I-C-H. Erich would be more German. Erich Lehnsherr. Eric is more like Nordic, Swedish. I believe I have a few Swedish friends called Eric, so I would put this up there. Nevertheless, Marvel tells us that he's from Germany, German origin, and he's been played by most famously, I believe, back then, Ian McKellen. Most recently then by Michael Fassbender, for the non-German speakers. I think those are probably the 2 most famous actors that played Magneto. And yeah, so you can already see where this list is going to go. Of course, I mean, it's about supervillains, right? So what do supervillains do? Take over the world. I'm really surprised that neither Pinky nor Brain, actually the brain should be German. Don't hate, you know it, because he has all those awesome plans, but it fails in the end. So yeah, Magneto, of course, trying to rule the world, more or less, get rid of those pesky X-Men. A very, very German trait, of course. I did not know that Magneto was German, by the way, until a few years ago. I think I saw a movie. I don't know which X-Men movie, because honestly, who can keep track of it? And I was like, does he have a German accent on purpose? And just a little bit. And then I figure I check it out and check up on it, and I realized that Marvel said he's of German origin. So I don't know if that was an acting choice by Michael Fassbender, or if it was just me, I don't know, seeing something, hearing something that wasn't there. But at least it led me to Google, and it then told me that Magneto, in fact, is German. So bow down to the Germans, to the German. I wanted to say superiority, but it could get me in trouble, so never mind. All right, second on the list. Second on the list might also surprise you, and I'm serious saying this. Second on the list is Professor Zündab. Do you remember Professor Zündab? Professor Zündab, if that's not a German name, I don't know. From Cars 2, Professor, aka Professor Z, Professor C, depending where you're from and when you listen to this. So actual name, Professor Zündab. And if you don't know, Professor Zündab is actually an internationally wanted weapons designer. And he's this small, that's according to the internet, a small, sophisticated German package. I kind of like that. The small, so that's what she said. No, a small, sophisticated German package. And he's, of course, if you watch Cars, right, you know that he's like this brilliant mind. But of course, he's like this mad scientist wearing like a monocle. And of course, he plans to sabotage the World Grand Prix. And he's like, the project, the plan needs to continue. The project needs to stay on schedule. The project needs to be on time. And so this is Professor Zündab, number 2, or let's say number 6 on my list of top German movie villains. Professor Zündab. Did you know that he was German? And now that you know, the name probably sounds German. By the way, the name doesn't make any sense. I mean, to some extent it does, but not really. So it doesn't really mean much in German. But Zünd might come from Zünden, which could be like ignite or start a fire. And so it's a word play with words and like engines and starting fire, the engine, and stuff like this. So it does make sense to some extent. So we understand where it comes from, but it's not an actual like name. Like, okay. It could actually also, it could be a name of like a 1930s motorbike from the German army or something. This would be like a perfect name for it, like the Zündab. Actually, that might actually be the case. That might actually be the reason why they gave Professor Zündab that name. Because while I'm talking about it, I'm like, yeah, actually, it's actually what it is. I remember this from the museums. And now while I'm talking, I'm actually Googling. Yep, I say school pays off. While I'm talking, I'm like, hey, wait, I know the name Zündab. And yeah, so Zündab was a major German motorcycle manufacturer founded in 1917 in Nuremberg by Fritz Neumeier together with the Friedrich Krupp. Friedrich Krupp AG is a big company, a steel company still around. So the Zündab, see, I remember this. If my teacher would still be alive, my primary school teacher would be like super happy. So thanks for this. So yeah, the Zündab is actually a German motorbike, and that's why they call him Professor Zündab. Makes sense. All right, so that's Professor Zündab for you on the list as a second from the bottom, my top German movie villains. Who's next on the list, you ask? Wait, well, time for some girl power, actually some woman power. Excuse me. Who should it be besides Frau Fapicina? Played by Mindy Sterling in Austin Powers. I tried to pronounce it like Austin Powers, but I can't. So Frau Fapicina, I mean, they call her Frau, like, so the German word for woman, Miss. So, a fictional character, of course, from Austin Powers, played by Mindy Sterling, and they call her, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like an attack and defense specialist. And she founded the Salvation Army in Austin Powers. And of course, she is like Dr. Evil's henchwoman, so to speak. So she tries to help him like take over the world, of course. And obviously she has a very heavy German accent. And the running gag of Austin Powers, of course, in this regard is that she just yells and shouts everything all the time because apparently that's what Germans do. Just shouting stuff randomly, which even startles Dr. Evil in the movies, which is kind of hilarious, of course. I think she, if I'm not mistaken, because I read it somewhere, that she actually got nominated for supporting actress in a comedy award somewhere. So that was kind of awesome, of course, kind of funny, very exaggerated, of course. We don't always just yell stuff. Subscribe. So Frau, I can't even pronounce it, Frau Farbissina by Mindy Sterling and Austin Powers. Okay, now let's move to the more serious ones, and let's be honest, we could have made like a whole James Bond list here. First one from the James Bond, legacy. I almost said rest in peace, James Bond, but I don't want to spoil anything. But the first one on the list, Auric Goldfinger, played by German actor Gerd Fröbe. So Gerd Fröbe played Auric Goldfinger in, the movie Goldfinger. I was thinking I should sing it, but I'm rather not sing it. So Gerd Fröbe played Goldfinger, the rather chubby, blondish haired, red-faced supervillain from the James Bond movie called Goldfinger. I did some research, of course. He was born in Zwickau, Germany, Eastern Germany, in 1913, and he died in 1988 in Munich. And he was really tall, with 185 for especially being born in 1913. And of course he was a very famous actor, and apparently also very talented in playing the violin. So those mad supervillains always with those super skills. No, that was his actual skill. So Auric Goldfinger from the movie Goldfinger, one of my favorite movie villains. They all are on this list right now. So I think he played that supervillain very well. And what was the quote? I'm gonna mess it up right now, but wasn't he when he met Bond, or when he had Bond on that thing where then he wanted to kill him with a laser or whatever, right? And Bond says, "Do you expect me to talk?" And then Goldfinger says, "No, I expect you to die." That was fantastic. So Gerd Fröbe, I think one of the all-time best, supervillains, if you can say it like this. Also, of course, Goldfinger gave us the movie also gave us, of course, pussy galore. You couldn't do this anymore, could you? Anyways, favorite quote was, of course, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die," but all those pussy galore things were also awesome. From the movie, that still starred Sean Connery as James Bond, by the way, and again, Gerd Fröbe, that's how you pronounce it, Gerd Fröbe, as Goldfinger. Then the next one on the list, and of course he has to be there, and I was kind of stressing about where to put him on the list. Put him in the middle, because he didn't succeed. Major in Germany, Major is Major. Major Arnold Todd, Ronald Lacey in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. When we talk German supervillains, Nazi supervillains, of course we have to talk about Indiana Jones, and we have to talk about the most horrific death scene that I've seen as a kid. When Ronald Lacey, Major Arnold Todd, Major, and mostly they refer to him as just Major, like his henchmen and so on. And I just watched the movie the other day, last week or so, when I was trying to get into a better mood, and then I thought, watching Major Arnold Todd's face melt because he drinks from obviously the wrong cup, because Jesus would never drink out of a golden cup, of course. Spoiler. So yeah, Major, but he was of course very, very villainous. I liked how he then of course also, not I liked, but it made sense for his character that he treated everybody really bad. Even like Bond, Indy's love interest that then the French dude was interested in, but he's just like whatever, get rid of her and so on. So he played the German Nazi very well. Also, the German accent was actually kind of nice, I think, by Ronald Lacey. So good job there, well done. Also looking very despicable, as all Germans apparently do. What? Why is no German supervillain looking handsome, actually? I'm just gonna put it out there. Germans can be very handsome looking, just saying. Like, I mean, case in point, that's why I don't have a video for this podcast. Yeah, but well done, Ronald Lacey. That was great. One of my favorite supervillains, of course. And then the next one on the list, as I said, we could have like a whole, Bond off here, but it's the second one, and I leave it with this, with the German Bond villains. By the way, Blofeld is not German. I read it like many times that Blofeld is German. Blofeld is not German. It would be, if you want to split hairs and if you want to get me cancelled, it would be Imperial German if you would take the imperial landmass that we, the Germans, possessed before the World War. I'm joking, right? But he's, according to like the background info, he's actually born in Poland, which was part of Germany until 1913 or so, until the First World War was then done, and then it was taken back by Poland. So he's actually Polish/Greek. He's not German. Just saying. So the supervillain on my list is Dr. Julius No, played by Joseph Weissman. And I think it was the first Bond movie, wasn't it? James Bond, Dr. No. In German, it's James Bond jagt Dr. No, I believe, which means James Bond chases Dr. No. So I think that we always add more words with subtitles. I don't know why. Maybe because our language is so awesome and we want to express ourselves more. So Dr. Julius No, played by Joseph Weissman from the James Bond movie of the same title, Dr. No, or James Bond jagt Dr. No. You remember Dr. No? I think when I saw him first time, I was really, I was super young, of course, because it was the first Bond. So you watched it on TV or something. But when I saw him, I thought, oh yeah, he looks like an actual. You see him on the screen. He doesn't need to say anything, and you're like, yep, this guy is terrible. I hate him. And oh no, he's gonna kill James Bond. So yeah, I had to put him like there because he's the OG German supervillain, I believe, the adversary to James Bond. So that's why I put him above Goldfinger in this case. But of course, both despicable, both very good at what they're doing. Not the greatest because they don't succeed, but yeah. So Dr. No, Julius No, definitely has to be up here on the list of best German or most despicable German supervillains. All right, 2 left, and the number 2 spot goes for the classic, I believe. Another Major, we just had Major Todd, now the second Major, Major Heinrich Strasser. We have to mention him. It's a very old movie, but of course it's a classic. It's from Casablanca. Conrad Veidt played Major Heinrich Strasser, the super Nazi, of course, in Casablanca. And yeah, he had to be here on the list. And while I did some research for this podcast, actually the actor Conrad Veidt apparently used lots of his salary and donated it to the British forces to fight the Nazis or to support the British military. But of course, no one really knew it back then, so he was then just labeled the Nazi. And I think he died a year after Casablanca aired, if I'm not mistaken. And so his legacy then was basically the Nazi, which is kind of sad, of course. But he played it just so well, of course, in the movie Casablanca. Major Heinrich Strasser, played by Conrad Veidt, the Nazi. And now, who's number 1 of the list? Who could be possibly top all those German supervillains? Of course, the German supervillain. The number 1 villain of all villains. And let's be honest, it can't be anyone else. So if I say movie supervillain, who do you think of? Yes, you think of exactly Hans Gruber. I just gave you a second to say it yourself. You will think of Hans Gruber from Die Hard, played by Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman's best role, by the way, and yes, I mean that, not a Potterhead here. So Hans Gruber, the German supervillain, right? The antagonist to Bruce Willis' character there, who is hijacking or like taking over the towers, tries to ruin Christmas, has no remorse, no feelings, very German. And of course, dies the perfect supervillain death when he then falls to his death, staring, looking, screaming at Bruce Willis. I just have to let it sit in for a second because I think Hans Gruber and Rickman did a really good job there. And simply the takeover of Nakatomi, right? Nakatomi Plaza and Nakatomi Towers, and then how he falls from Nakatomi Towers. It's just perfectly done, I believe. So yeah. Can't say much more, besides the accent being really terrible and the German does sound terrible. So when he speaks German, Alan Rickman, rest in peace, fantastic actor, but the German could have been better. Nevertheless, I think the portrayal was fantastic, and Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman deserves the #1 spot as one of the most despicable supervillains ever. And Hans Gruber just, yeah. If you say supervillain, I don't even need to say German, you think Hans Gruber, right? So that concludes my list of my top, that's a weird thing to say, my top supervillains, German supervillains. I actually now got a bit lost in like just thinking about the movies and didn't really criticize them. So, of course, fictional characters, right? Is Austin Powers or Professor Zündab. They try to exaggerate, of course. I think Hans Gruber, like I said, the German could have been a little bit better, but like the way he behaves, and it's just very villainous, of course, so that makes sense. I think the Nazis, like Major Heinrich Strasser, was of course very Nazi-like, so that was well acted. Then the super villains in James Bond, of course, they don't really, I know they're really proud of their heritage and not like, I'm German, but they do behave in certain ways or speak in certain ways where you think, okay, yeah, that's a strong German accent, for example, which makes them look even more dangerous, because as soon as you have a German accent, you're dangerous, of course. So I think it just makes sense very often there. And it also shows that just how scared the US was of Germans for a while. Now, of course, it's like other nationalities have taken over that spot as supervillains. But I actually kind of enjoyed that the Hollywood was so scared of Germans for a while. Should get that back. I want more German supervillains again. I'm ready to do it. All right, that's it for this episode. The comeback episode, so to speak, of Servus, Kraut. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know who are your supervillains or your German supervillains or any kind of supervillains. Shout out in the comments on social media or via email funkitpod@gmail.com. Let me know your favorite or most despised supervillains. That's it for now. Take care, stay safe. I'll see you soon. And, well, Servus.